I went to Santa Monica College. I started in 1967. 1967 is when I graduated from high school, and didn't really have a clue what I wanted to do, right? And so kind of went to the community college, and at that point, it was really to see a counselor because you're kind of floating around not knowing what to do. And they said, well, what are your passions? What do you like? And that's when I said, I always love children, right? That's our first things out of our mouth. This work is beyond just loving children, but it is the door into the window of maybe finding your passion. And so they escorted me into the child development program, and it was really quite wonderful, not unlike your story. And I did the 2-year program, but really in 3 years, 4 years, because I also worked at Vaughn's for 21 years. I was a checker at Vaughn's. And I share that story because I think that's also really important to share, because if I worked 16 hours a week, I could get all my medical paid for, right? And so when I got married, it was really important. My husband freelanced. So, you juggle things. So I worked, I did that. And then I took the practicum class. And at the time, and still, Santa Monica College does not have a lab school. And so you were at the mercy of the community. We are still at the mercy of the community to support our students' learning. And so I was placed at the children's place in Ocean Park on 2nd and Hill, still there. And I did my practicum there. And I think it's like anything with networking. Why this is all really important is because you get to know people. And the truth is, you get to know us, but we also get to know you. So they saw that I was a good student. I was on time. I showed up. I more than showed up. I was very eager to be involved, which is what you'll find. It's not like just being placed and doing your checklist and getting it over with. It's really, who are we? And even when you go on a job interview, it's really important to interview the employer. Is this a right fit? So coming up some good questions about the right match. So they hired me, and that was cool. And I still worked at Vaughn's. I worked in the evenings, and I was the morning preschool teacher, so I worked 7:30 to 2, and then I was home in the afternoon, and then I worked 6 to 10 in the evening or in the weekends. So if I can still keep 16 hours, because that was really important for me, because I wasn't offered any medical. So that's something to also, it's a little different these days. You have to be offered at least something, right? So that story is, and then I got, I did get married in 1973. I got pregnant in 1978, which was a real blessing for me, and left the preschool world. Still worked at Vaughn's because I'm having a baby now. I need my medical, right? So I decided not to go back to teaching preschool and to be able to just work at Vaughn's and be home with my daughter. And my husband freelanced, and so who wants to work? We just want to be home with her, right? And then, as I was telling Marty, that why this is an important story is because as your life goes the way it's supposed to go, if you stay open to the door and you really look around and kind of know what's there, your life does evolve. I mean, you've got to take a little power and a little assertiveness to kind of figure out what it is, but it does kind of evolve. So what happened is I was home with Zoe and I would do mommy and me's and things like that, right? And I realized I was kind of bored with those because I had this background that I thought I could be teaching this. And so I was a little antsy. But when Zoe turned 18 months old, something happened in her that she didn't just want me anymore. Her world opened up. She was kind of done with me, basically. And I had a plan, right? She wasn't supposed to be done with me. And so that was kind of the big first shift of understanding that children have a right to be who they are. And are we keeping them down? Are we deciding what they should know? that was interesting to me because I'm pretty convinced, yes, I was going to get something. Because I knew. And certainly my husband didn't know. Because, you know, I knew I was child development specialist. So I did start my first school when Zoe was 18 months old. It was a parent-toddler school in the Mid-Wilshire area. We lived in Hollywood then. And I didn't have friends that had children, so I was actually feeling very isolated as well. It's not like this culture now where there's a lot of children and there's a lot of acceptability with children. You can go to restaurants with children and you can, I mean, really in 1978, they didn't really like kids in restaurants and you certainly didn't take them to parties. And now everybody's all around, so it's evolved a little bit. But then I felt a little isolated, so that school was a parent-toddler school and I did that 3 days a week. And I got to meet other people. I also brought in specialists so I could also learn more about being an adult in this world of parenting. And even though I knew what I was doing in the field, I was new at parenting. Let's face it, it is the most powerful and influential profession there is, and yet we're not really trained for it. We're just in it. And so that was really an important thing for me. When she turned 3, I thought, oh, she needs to find some friends, go to a little preschool, and get away from me a little bit. And right, so I signed her up at Happy Land in Culver City. It's still there. You should visit it. And it was classic, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, in the morning, because I still worked at Vaughn's at night, so I had time, right? And my husband was freelancing, so he would work in the morning, and we'd have afternoons as a family together. It was really quite lovely, and then I would work, and he would be with her. But what was happening is that once she started school, there was actually this little mindset of, I might have a little time. In the morning, you have a cup of coffee and you make a bed. That's kind of it. And then you go back and pick up your child, who actually is different now, because their world is opened up. She wanted to be with her friends. She wanted to have that whole day kind of plan to finish what she didn't finish in the morning in some ways. And in the afternoon, everything that we kind of knew together changed. And so there was a little agitation for us. And by 4 o'clock, we were kind of killing each other. It was like, what, you're still here? What's happening? So at that point, I did ask the director at the time, I said, tell me about this, because this is not working. And she said, would you consider 3 full days? Welcome. Would you consider 3 full days? Well, I had to go into this guilt place of, I don't need full day, all day care. Yeah. I made these choices for my daughter, all these things, right? And yet, again, what's about me and what's about Zoe? And so the director at that time said, would you consider 3 full days? And I said, okay, tell me what that looks like. And we said yes, because Zoe was ready for it. Because at home she wasn't napping. She wanted me to take her to the park. I'm thinking, I'm not swinging one more day. And then 4 o'clock, like I said, it was just like we didn't like each other anymore because it was just, So it was actually fantastic. And again, it was that shift up of getting past myself. And I love sharing these things because I think we have a goal for ourselves, and we're forgetting that children have a right to have what they deserve and what they're asking for. Because if they don't have what they're asking for, and you know this in the class, their behaviors will shift. And so when behaviors shift, then we go with what's wrong with them. Their discipline problem. And in the classrooms, it's very fascinating to watch because we label children pretty quickly. Oh, he's got this, or he's like this because she's like, they're crazy because their mother's crazy. I mean, we go there. We're a very judgmental society. And so this, again, was a real big shift for me. And so I ended up doing like a 9 to 4, and I got to do things that completed me, which is important, by the way. If we're living solely through our children, big mistake. Because what we need to do is also nurture our own creativity, our own health. Because if we don't, then we're hovering over children and controlling their creativity. why don't you put a little more yellow on that picture? You ever seen that? Yeah. Then they make this beautiful picture and they want to color it with, whatever all over, and you're going, no, don't do that. It's beautiful. I want to hang that up on the wall. Not about you. It's about their own personal experience. So, but if we're having creativity, places for our own creativity, then we can let that go and appreciate their creativity, that time for creativity. So this is mind shift. I'm going to tell you a lot of things that are kind of like, what? But this is what this approach that we're going to be moving into gradually is so contextually meaningful for me. And I would like to, that's why I'm sharing my story, because it's not all of a sudden someone said I should be teaching this. Oh, this is the new approach, the Reggio approach, I got to learn about that, I'm going to teach this because this is the new fad or whatever it is. Not about that. It's all about context of how I'm taking in information. So, okay, so she did 9 to 4. It was fantastic because I, again, was able to complete some tasks. She was able to complete some tasks and really make really better relationships because she was resting with the children, she was waking up with her friends. There was a longer time. In morning programs, you have kind of a limited time. And in most programs, you're doing work. You're assigned to paint cows or whatever the curriculum is. And you don't really have time to problem solve together and to get to know each other in relationship. So this whole thing, she became more fulfilled in her role of who she was as a friend even. And so by the time she came home, we were happy. We were getting ready to cook together and prepare for the next stage of the evening. Whereas before, this is when kind of go look at a video, because I need time. I mean, a lot of it is something about, again, checking us. So that worked out really well, and the director at the time said, I'm looking to expand and get another school. And I said, oh, that sounds good. And would you be interested in being the director? And I said, well, I don't think I'd be interested in being a director, but I'd be a partner. I'd really go into business and do that with you. And so that's how New School West started. It started as a partnership in 1987. The reason I love sharing that, and I was telling Marnie, I'll be 70 in March, I've never been on a job interview. Did you just see what happened?
Yeah.
My life I created it. Granted, I did start a business, and you have to be somewhat, it's not that I had money, because I worked at Bonds. So I didn't have a lot of money, but at the time it's a little easy. It was easier then than it is now to start a business. But do you see what happened? The doors opened up, the networking happened. I listened, there was a mindset, I let go. I didn't hold on to what I thought I needed because I would have missed a lot of opportunities. Really would have missed a lot of opportunities and relationships and a lot of knowledge. So I'm here today because I have a lot of experiences. I think Marini,
yes.
What you were saying is that I don't have the answers, but I'm a good holding space for people to dialogue because I really think you have all the questions and all the things. And I do believe there's times in our lives when you know something's not right and you don't question it. You just continue it. And so my story of New School West is a lot of this because New School West, we started in 1987. It was originally an 8-plex housing unit. And, but originally the story was, as I was researching the history, there was a nurse at I want to say UCLA, that could have been my interpretation, but she had this grand idea of opening a place for staff children. And so a 24-hour childcare. And so she's the one that initially knocked down the walls and things like that. It was called Kitty Corral. Okay? So, and it had cowboy and Indian wallpaper. And it was a sign of the times. And, yeah. And so, but it didn't last too long. She sold it to, and then it was a child's learning place and that was for a few years. It's licensed for 60. And those of you who understand EC2 and all those, I think you talk a little bit about licensing. Licensing doesn't really care about curriculum. They care about health and safety. That's your first thing. So they come in and measure your space, and they say that children should have 75 square feet per child, outdoor space.
Just learned about this today.
Yeah, okay. And it's important to know that, because when people go look for, when parents go look at spaces, they don't understand licensing rules. And they don't understand why you can't just take more kids when it looks like you can. But you don't ever go over your license. That's it. You can lose your business. But they come and measure your space. So my license is 60. When I took over, there were only 28 children, and it was a 6 to 6:30 setup. So you can see, and it's in Mar Vista right now. Of course, it's booming. You know, Mar Vista looks like a whole different community than it did 31 years ago. It was a real rough neighborhood. And it was a 6 to 6:30 drop-off, and very poorly run. It took me 2 years to get anyone from the neighborhood because it was a bad reputation in the school. And you know how long it takes to fight a bad reputation. But I hung in there. But the stories are big because I learned so much about how to enter a community and be in context with your community. Because at the time when I had my parent-toddler school, I was in more of the Hollywood area. So when I came to this area, I couldn't bring my families. So there wasn't any knowledge of who I was. I all of a sudden was in this space. And so I wanted to understand the community. I wanted to be a part of the community. And so I would have these open houses, like people would come and show the school. And really, I don't have any pictures right this minute of this, but it was really run down. It was, the wallpaper was still, I didn't have any money to do anything, to change anything. I could only sell myself, right? But if you're looking at the environment, it's pretty shocking, right? But I had to really value who I was and sell myself and understand that I'm new at this community. So my next big aha in life of understanding who I am in context was to be vulnerable. This is also what this work is, to be vulnerable, which means I have to let people know that I'm scared or that I'm willing to put myself out there, that I will really do what I say I'm going to do. And that's hard, right? So I would call people back on the phone when they would come and visit and they didn't show up or they didn't apply, and I thought, okay, I've got to reach out. I've got to figure out what is it that's happening or not happening. And people would tell me, and they would share a variety of things, but there was this one phone call that changed my life. And it was silence at the end of the phone. I said, I'm calling, it's Roleen, I'm calling to find out if you have any further questions about visiting the school. And I'm new to the community, I really want to be a part of it. And so I'm reaching out for some input, and there was silence at the end. I'm thinking, I'm starting to shake. I'm thinking, oh, I'm in for this, because somehow this is, and she said, it's really uncomfortable to have this phone call. And I said, it's uncomfortable for me too. I appreciate it. If you could just muster up some, it's meant only for me to gather some information because I'm new at this and I'm struggling. And she said to me, I just didn't like you. Okay? And I'm thinking, first of all, no one doesn't like me. I'm harmless. It's like I'm so generous. I'm all those things, right? But I realized it goes back to child development. When a child says you're mean, or I don't like you, or you're not my friend, we have to get past what those words mean to really understand what they're saying. I'm mean because you wanted a cookie and I said you couldn't have it. That's our first words out of our mouth. You're upset because you wanted that cookie. But instead we go to this lesson, well, that's going to hurt my feelings. Well, does it really? We're adults here.
Right.
But what we want to do is teach manners and teach kindness and all those things. We're teaching rather than validating that children didn't really mean to hurt your feelings in the first place. That you're not sophisticated enough to say, I'm mad at you because you didn't give me a cookie. They're saying you're mean. So we have to be more sophisticated in understanding that. So I got that. In fact, I think that I taught the class the night before this phone call, which was a refresher because then I said, I mustered up enough to say, wow, that must have been really hard to say, because it was really hard to hear. And then I realized there was something she didn't like. I can say, what was it you didn't like? Because it wasn't me that she didn't like. There was something about the presentation, there was something that she was expecting that didn't get. And so she was able to say, I didn't think you would be able to give me the time of day if I signed up. And I said, wow, if anything, I think I'm so generous with my time and so eager. I'm surprised, but tell me more about that. Do you see what I'm saying? Tell me more is what we're at right now. Because I want to know as much information that I can gather to really have a response rather than a reaction. Because a reaction would cut us off and I would learn nothing. So the response keeps that the reciprocity going, that wheel going. I have to be the one that pushes it to keep it going. If I had hung up, which I wanted to, by the way, it would have been over. But instead, I realized what she was expecting is to sit down with me with a clipboard of her questions and I would answer those. My style was to walk and talk. And I was thinking walking and talking, we'd see things, I could reflect back. But I got it. Of course she'd be disappointed because she didn't feel that I was responding. So then I took that information. Was I upset? Of course. I was upset, because I'm working so hard. Not only am I still working at Vaughn's, because I have no payroll, but I'm killing myself. I'm going in weekends and trying to get that cowboy and Indian wallpaper off, and I'm just really working hard, so I'm emotionally distraught. To be misunderstood is also, I think, the worst thing in the world, because to be misunderstood, you have a hard time rallying around that. You can't break that, and it becomes defensive almost if you try to talk through it. So I feel like I was misunderstood, and so that was hard. I went home, of course, and cried, and my husband said, sell that damn business, it's like, get out of there. But the conversation that he had with me was, who's going to advocate for you? You're advocating for the children. Who's advocating for you? So that's another thing that I had to think about. But at the time, I did learn how to, the next call, when they had an appointment, I was able to say, this is what to expect. We will walk around, and then we'll have time for questions. Do you see what's happening? Mm-hmm. This is also for children. When you're working with children, if they have an expectation and something isn't met, their behavior is off. And it could be something as simple as my teacher's out sick and no one called to tell the parent. And so I'm walking in expecting to see my teacher, and my teacher's sick. Now I'm thrown off. Or my best friend isn't there. And I'm walking in to connect with my best friend, and my best friend's not there. So now I'm hugging on my parents' legs, and I'm not going to separate as easy as I usually do. And then there's that, what's wrong? What's wrong? What we have to understand is that children have a right to have expectations. And we, in our culture, just talk over children a lot. And in our past especially, we have memories of that as a child. All of a sudden we're in a place and no one told us, go to the doctor. No one told us why we're going to the doctor. All of a sudden they're poking at us and then get over it. Now we're talking through feelings and wanting to give expectations and all those things. What we're now needing to do is, yes, feelings are really important to recognize, but now it's empowering the children to recognize the feelings and giving them the ability to work through the feelings. And that's why this, again, I'm getting to this approach soon, because it's about time. Time to problem solve, time to recognize who I am as a part of a community member. And in our old paradigm of the 9 to 9:15, 9:15 to 10, 10 to 15, that preschool schedule that we keep, I had to question why did we have that? Okay, so that goes back again to licensing. When you buy a school, and licensing cares about health and safety, you have to submit a schedule, and the schedule has to show where children eat, pee, poop, and sleep, because that's health and safety. So, okay, this is where they wash their hands, this is where they get ready to eat, this is where they, this is where and we throw that in there. And when you think about it, it's like 15-minute increments of stuff. And then you throw in curriculum because you got to prove that you're doing something. And curriculum ends up to be about 40 minutes. It's that 40 minutes of artwork. That's thematic. We did it. I did it. I submitted it. And then what happens is that you're so busy working and trying to make this work that you're not revisiting the meaning of what all this is. Okay, so because there's times during the day when this doesn't work, but we just do it. So I taught the class EC21, which is exactly the intern class where you do the 9 to 9:15, the thematic. There is a culture in our world right this minute, in our American culture, that we have to teach children routine. We have to teach them structure. There is a fallacy about this approach, the Reggio approach, that children are running amok, that there is no curriculum plan. The children come up with their own curriculum. It's a big fallacy because there's so much intention that goes into planning curriculum around what children are interested in. And so but getting back to the EC21, the reason I'm saying this is that my school, New School West, was that school. We had the accordion doors were always shut. We had a classroom here, a classroom there, a classroom there, a classroom there, and we had good ratios. It was 9 to 1. Licensing says you can have 12 to 1. Accreditation says you can have 10 to 1. We had 9 to 1 with a teacher who also worked with the other groups, so that brought down the ratio. So it wasn't, ratios weren't an issue. But we also had the red, white, and blue carpets, and we had all the classic, primary colors. Somehow we were taught that that's how children take in numbers, and that's how children learn shapes, and all. That's not how we learn. You don't have those things at your house. I watched a child at one point do a puzzle on the floor with a checkerboard floor and a dinosaur rug with all the primary colors, and he's doing a puzzle on it. And then you wonder why he's throwing the puzzle pieces. Because he can't see it. He can't organize. And so if a child can't organize, we got to organize for him. But at that point, that could have been, he's a problem.
Conventional culture.
He's throwing puzzle pieces. He needs to not play with puzzles. He doesn't know how to use them. We do that. We do that to control ourselves, I think, in some ways. Timeouts are to give ourselves a breath in some ways. And we use this terminology. We'll sit there and think about what you just did. I'm thinking about how soon am I going to get up and finish what I left. And that's a fact. That is a fact because in early childhood education, theory is in the early years, they are pre-operational. That's Piaget. Pre-operational means that they don't have the ability to have logical thought. Means if I do this, this will happen. They're in it before they know they're in it. They take things and then you say, why'd you take it? First of all, you know why they take it. They wanted it. Here's a big one. Don't ever ask a question if you know the answer already. Write that down. I'm telling you, it's a big one. Don't ever ask a question if you already know the answer. What you want to do is provide an avenue to get information. So you want to say, you took that from Joey's cubby. He's going to really want it. He's going to look for that. You're not going to say, why didn't you take it? First of all, they're going to think it's theirs. Because if they have one at home, got to be mine.
Yeah.
If it's sparkly, got to be mine. Because and also Piaget says, reversibility comes further down the line. They may not have reversibility, which means they don't have the ability to automatically put it back. Okay? You have to be able to say, he's going to want that back. He's going to look at his cubby for it. We need to put that back. Give them the directions to do that. But if you stop and say, why did you do that? First of all, you're setting them up for lying. People say, why is my kid lying? Well, you set them up, basically. Because you ask them, and first of all, I didn't take it. I didn't do it. It's in his hand. And then we get worried. Then we gotta teach, lying. We gotta teach truth. We gotta teach morals. No, we have to recognize the stage of development they're in. Okay? So all this stuff that I taught, as a culture, we bought into of teaching and structure and all those things. So it wasn't until in 2000, I started teaching at Santa Monica College in 1998. And again, I went back from my master's, like late in life, 50. No, it was before that. I think I was 45. And then I went to Pacific Oaks and I said, I want to get my master's. And they got this plan for me. And I said, and it's a 5-year plan. I think, oh my God, I'm going to be 50 by the time I get my master's. And they said, yeah, you're going to be 50 and you'll have your master's. A different shift of thinking.
Yep.
Because I could only do one class at a time. I was having a business and I was doing all this stuff. So I admire you for being here, 3 children and on the way. I mean, it's not easy. And even one class, you're going to do it. You're moving forward. Congratulations. And so I was 50 when I got my master's, but here's the dream of not wanting to go on an interview forever, right? So my thesis was to hook up with Santa Monica College and redesign their mentor's handbook. There you go. They got to know me. I got the mentor handbook, and they hired me. So there you go. Not one interview in almost 70 years. I love it. And even Vaughn's. My dad worked at Vaughn's. You know? Yeah. So there you go. But I do love that. You see, it was connections and networking, and also it was meaningful for me because we had college students that came because remember we don't have a lab school at Santa Monica College, so we had students that came and worked with us. So to redesign that was really contextual for me. It was meaningful. So that being said, I started teaching EC2, which is programs at Santa Monica College. I'm not sure where all yours is, but so I had to know a little bit about everything, right? A little bit about everything. And so then, but at the time also I'm networking with my own colleagues, Mary Hartzell at First Press, and Ellen Coca from the Growing Place. And we would meet at the Rose for lunch and talk. And they started talking about the Reggio approach. And at that point, I started like hyperventilating because it was like, oh my gosh, I just think I know what I'm doing just now.
Yeah.
And now you're telling me there's a new way of thinking and I have to reevaluate everything that I've been doing. And I'm going to be able to see everybody. And so, but I listened because it was so exciting to hear what they were saying. It's good, it's good. And so I went back and we started visiting the schools, Evergreen Community School, the Growing Place, First Presbyterian Nursery School, those schools that kind of put this in action. I started visiting it. I got all excited. But what happened is I got all excited and I came back and talked to my teachers who kind of did this. The body language is there, you know, because what am I asking? Change. I'm asking you to think differently. And that's what this is about. I'm asking you to stay open and think differently. And that's scary because it's hard work to think differently. I think what happens also, the fallacy of the Reggio approach, is that this is a better way, which means already that I have to defend my way of teaching. And this has never been that. Because in Italy, the last thing they want is you to copy what this is, to take what it is to look at the values and look at and redesign what we're doing together. So we kind of slowed down. I had to slow down. We started reading the books. We started looking at children a little bit, our environments a little bit differently. We realized that wow, we got a lot going on in this environment. You know, we started kind of comparing and looking. But in the year 2000, we got a group of children. I think they were just sent from wherever we're supposed to be given that challenged every single thing that we have been doing traditionally.
Hands-on.
So there were 3 children in the group of 9, something was going on. They just couldn't settle in. 3 children in another group, something was going on. The 3rd group is perfect. Okay? At that point, because we had 2 years of studying and looking differently, we were able to look at these children differently. Before, it was like, what's wrong with them? Right? We have to work harder at them. They have to understand. They have to understand that they can't run inside the classroom and throw things off the loft and do all those things. Where instead, we're now looking at, why are they doing that? Behaviors mean something. And this is child development. This is not the Reggio approach, but it's important for you to write these things down too. There's only 3 reasons why people, I think all levels of age, misbehave. And I want to say M-I-S-S behave. Because misbehave is already a negative word. If we're going to get past negativity and re-establish who we are as people who don't label children, we have to look at our own language. So missing a behavior, and the first one is, it's an unmet need. I'm tired, I'm hungry, Dad's traveling,
Diaper.
I miss him. Yeah, whatever it is, unmet need. Globally, there's war around me. I don't have food. Whatever it is, it's big. I can't be 100%, no matter what you tell me the rules are. The second one is a lack of a skill. I don't really know how to tell you I want to be your friend, so I'm going to knock those blocks down you just built. Start looking at children differently of how they approach people. Because they want to be in. Have you watched those children? They want to be friends with someone, don't quite know how to do it. And so they either, go like that or knock things down or take things and run away.
Social skills. Yeah.
Because you got them, I got you now. I mean, it's just like you. If you're on the phone and your child wants your attention, they're hitting you or they're throwing things at you. They're not saying, excuse me, will you get off the phone and play with me? Because if they did, you say, in a minute. And it wouldn't be a minute. It'd be 5 minutes and 10 minutes because if children are happy, you'll let it go. So they can only get your attention sometimes in a negative, most times in a negative way. Because it's easier. It's the only thing they know. Okay, so you have to be able to understand that rather than getting angry with it. Does that make sense? So the lack of a skill. And when you start a new job or you're taking in new information, you're kind of holding it together, but you go home and you're throwing things. Or you're yelling at your partners, or you're just agitated. Because you're in Piagetian stage of disequilibrium. This is what I'm hoping I'm giving you right now. A little disequilibrium. Because uncertainty is a place where we want to be. That's where the best learning is. That's a zone of proximal development with Vygotsky. Disequilibrium with Piaget. That place of uncertainty. And so, basically, to remind you about, I know Piaget and theory you're taking in your classes, but to really make it understandable in this context of the three things we're talking about for behaviors. If you're in disequilibrium, your behavior isn't going to be solid because you're mixed up. And so what you're trying to do is assimilate. You're trying to accommodate. You're trying to accommodate. You're taking things in to something that you already understood and you're bumping that information. That doesn't feel right. But until you assimilate and really understand it, you are in disequilibrium. Okay? So in that case, when children start school or when you ask them to transition, if you notice transition's hard for children. And behaviors kind of beef up in transition because they're not sure what's happening next. And that gets back to that expectation. Some children need actually, let me walk you through what's happening next. And we don't do that. We do this whole picture. Okay, 5 more minutes, everybody, So we have to understand how children are taking it because if we look at behaviors, they're telling us something and we're actually annoyed by them.
Behind it.
Yeah, we're annoyed by them because we have work to do. And what's wrong with them? I mean, not all. I'm not saying that we're all doing that, but it is very easy to do that. And then, so if it's a lack of, the last one, it's a wrong fit. And if it's a wrong fit, you feel it. You feel it. So like, I need light and air. I know how to fix that if I'm in a dark room. I can light candles. I can do things. Children don't know how to do that. So those children who have to wait to go to till 10:30 because the yard is being used by somebody else and we're rotating. Those children who have to wait till 10:30 and they're in from 9 to 10:30, they're jumping off the log. They're throwing things because their brain is telling me I need to move. And you're saying, wait till 10:30. Walking feet, how many people have heard that? Impossible to have walking feet if my brain says I gotta move.
But also you say consistency on the schedule and their program, daily program also will help them with not having that anxiety and all that. But if you see them, if this is circle time and they're jumping and I mean they need to go up, but you have to do something with them first.
Well, let me tell you, you have to actually, they have to be outside jumping. Even the public schools are now understanding that they have to run before they go inside. Because you have to have your brain move, especially in preschool.
Uh-huh.
Preschool, you know, it's fine motor is one of the things that we focus on. Somehow we have to teach children to write. Yes, that's important, but large motor is more important in preschool in the early years because large motor gets that brain moving
Yeah.
in order to stimulate the brain, in order to control this. It helps you self-regulate and focus. If you don't have this, it's almost impossible to do this. So I would say if you're seeing children who can't attend, what did they do prior to that? It's just an observation. Because we do want children to attend, but we can't force them to attend the way we think they should.
Yes.
That's all I'm saying. Because we have 3-year-olds that stay at circle time for sometimes 30 minutes. Because they're engaged and they've had mobility, they also have open schedules, so they don't have to hurry up. So we'll talk about the schedule, but that's something you have your hand.
I was gonna say, what could you just read standing up or running in a circle?
Well, you can do all those things. You just have to figure out what's all right for the group, too. You know, the
Right.
individuals are very important, but it's also
And
what's
you can't separate the circle.
yeah. And you don't want to have one child jumping up and down while others are listening. So you have to understand how well your schedule is to.
But why not have all of them?
Because that's one thing you can do. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'm just saying, look at your behaviors as what it is and think of options.
Okay.
So the wrong fit for these particular children, as we were assessing these children in the year 2000, we saw a lot. So we actually, in the course of assessment, saw that there were 2 children actually who had autism. So we were able to get some outside resources, understand what that was, involve the families in that and getting resources. That was important. 3 of the children, we ended up with family therapy. And that was because we discovered there were things going on. One had a grandmother who was very sick that was living in the home. The child didn't know how to process that. I mean, so there was a lot of things that we discovered just by watching and just by observing and also being open to the possibilities that there's others, again, these 3 things. And the other was a speech and language thing that we were able to also give resources for. Because if you don't have speech and language, you're using your body to speak,
Yes.
okay? So there was a lot of stuff. And so at that point, we decided that it was no longer about us anymore. Do you see, there's 2 years here of studying. 2 years of me saying, this is where I'd like to go. I understand that you're not ready yet. We're ready now. Is anyone really ready? No. It needed to be me finally saying, we're going to do this. And so we did it with the core of teachers, just on this new group, the West Wing. The West Wing is the 3s and 4s, and the East Wing is the 4s and 5s. So our school is 3 to 5. And but we think about it, we had 4 teachers now. Remember, we had one, and one was floating. So we decided we'd take the 4 teachers and work collaboratively together and open the outdoor space. So at the same time, we'd gather at 9 for morning circle, and we decided we were going to not do this, 9 to 9:15, 9:15 to 10, we're not doing that. Because they couldn't settle in before we were giving them a 5-minute call. We were agitating them even more than their environment was agitating them by their time schedule. We decided we were going to do snack for a whole hour available. It's called community snack. And we were going to honor that space as an honorable space. So a teacher had to be there to help with the menu, to write with the children, to write down, listen to them. But that was a big deal because people didn't honor snack. And then we had to figure out, no teacher wanted snack. No one wanted to snack. So then we had to watch, what was that about? Okay, by looking at how we did snack and by changing it to an open, less of a timeline, because what we ended up doing is 9 to 9:20 was meeting time. 9:20 to 11:30 is an open time frame where you can do all your activities, indoor and outdoor, okay? So we'll look a little bit closer at that, but that was a big deal. So by eliminating snack, which was that 10 to 10:15 or whatever, we eliminated 11 transitions. Okay, 5-minute call, right? You've already interrupted their play. So now they're running around because the next one's going to be cleanup. I'm not cleaning up, and now you got to find the kids, okay? And then you got to go wash your hands, go sit down in circle.
Wow. Oh, God.
Right? You can relate because that's what we do. Sit down in a circle, go line up, go get your snack, sit down. Oops, everyone doesn't eat at the same time. So go to the transition area while the teacher washes the table. Go line up, go outside. No wonder everybody was doing this. Because we're trying to do so much and put it in this time frame, again, because I think we had to because of licensing. Okay? Now accreditation says we don't have to do it that way. We have to provide a safe place for eating, peeing, pooping, and sleeping. Okay? And we all know we don't do all that at the same time. But we are doing that at the same time. And so if I'm not ready for that, your body is speaking. So again, wrong fit. So by opening that up, it was a revelation for us. And let me tell you, and you can relate to this, snack time was when everybody wanted to go on their break. Because it was the worst time of day, right? Not doing snack time, going on a break. And so by opening it up and honoring community snack the way it is, it's brilliant. Because it's time to make relationships. So the Reggio approach is all about relationships. And if that's about relationship, then time has to be in it. So we had to evolve. So then the other piece is, if we have done that and looked at our environment and we need to change because we're overstimulating them, then we have to involve parents. Because that's not what they bought into. They bought into a sweet little group with a teacher, and now you're gonna have 27 children with 4 teachers, teachers I don't know, and children I don't like. Because they see behaviors, and it scares them, right? And until there's a relationship built, and that's up to us to create a relationship with parents and children, to understand that we're looking at the 3, we're working together. So we, at that point, said, we need you. We've been studying this approach and the timelines, and we need you. So every day we had a parent sign up and sit on the couch and read books, just because we needed at least someone stable every day. And to have a parent there was brilliant because it brought them in to that. So that, yeah.
So the parent, when you bring in parents, they'll let the child be more like into the parents and might actually focus on.
That's a possibility, and in which case we have to decide, is it going to work for the child? But initially, we want all parents to be able to have the ability to do it, but that is one of the goals, to say a child really should have their community, and if they're only with you, that could be a problem, so then we'll have to address that.
Sometimes I notice when I'm at a school with my mother, working with her, I like the feeling of having my mother there, but I'm not actually working with her because she could be out doing whatever. She's the administrator. I'm the TA teaching her because of the teacher, but having her there and being able to work side by side. Having those individuals that have to learn from another person is. It
is all about personality, and it is the right fit. and sometimes it's not. And then we have to address what that looks like, because why? It's all about the child. It's not about the parents and the adults anymore, the teachers. So with that conversation, I want to really just talk to you about, and we're going to get this to you, but what is this, the Reggio approach mean to people? Do you have a history of what this is, or is this all new to some? Okay, so I'm going to do a little small version of the beginning of what this is. So after the war, the towns were devastated after the war, and so they were given in Italy. I'm speaking about Italy now, and they were given monies to rebuild. And so a lot of the towns took the monies to build their community centers or to build opera houses to rebuild. There was a town outside Reggio Emilia where the mothers said, "We want to build a school for the children. They have a right to have hope and beauty and education." And so what they did is they sold the tank parts, they earned money, and the dads, brick by brick, built the school. Loris Malaguzzi, who is the founder of the Reggio School, is a teacher and a philosopher in another town. He heard about it. He gets on his bike, he comes over and says, "What's going on? We're building a school for the children. I want to be a part of it." So the idea, in a very simple nutshell, it's really about that the schools for children are not just teachers teaching children, but it's about parents and teachers and children and community coming together to advocate for the rights of quality education for everyone. So that's, in a nutshell, how this all, so it's not a fad and a new thing. In 1991, Newsweek magazine wrote an article about the 10 best preschools in the world, and the schools in Reggio Emilia were number one. Why? What are they doing that we're not doing? And so there became a lot more interest. There was a lot of interest before that, but a lot more interest to say why.
Interaction with the parents.
Well, I'll tell you. So it's really about going and looking at what it is, because it's not about Italian theory. It's not about being Italian. It's a value system that there is this guide. And I think what happens is we have a misconception that you can do portions of the Reggio approach. You can't do portions of a value system. Your school will look different in each context. And certainly the children, the Reggio children and the schools in Reggio do not want you to take what they have and copy it, which is kind of what's happening because it's a hot topic right now. So it's not about pretty baskets, it's not about pretty environments, it's not about artwork and art materials, which I think a lot of people think it is. It's about a value system that honors children as powerful, capable, responsible. They don't need to be protected. They certainly need to be a part of a citizenship, which we all have to take care of ourselves. But to what we do in our culture is we protect children. We give them plastic toys so they don't hurt themselves. Have you ever tried to cut with a plastic scissors? It's frustrating.
Yeah.
And so then again, I want to just hurt the person next to me who somehow is cutting paper, and I can't. But do you see, so that again, behavior means that you're giving them tools that are not beautiful and meaningful. And so they know that. They know it. And so even, we're a litigious society. We have to worry about people suing us and all this. At the risk of our children, we have to think about what that means. And so children have amazing ideas, and this is the umbrella of what guides us. And so if we believe that, and let's face it, Maria Montessori, it's not about Italian theory, but she's one of the theorists that said children have a right to have furniture their size. They have a right to have beautiful things, to be able to work meaningfully. In child development books, you'll see the word meaningful work. You see children, they want to sweep with you. They want to wash the clothes with you. They want to do those things. And we say, I'm working, you go play.
You can do it.
Okay, but I say that play I'm here today, and I love being here because it's all about play. There is not either or. When we're working with children, we're playing, but we're looking at the depth of what they're actually doing and supporting them. We're not busying them. And what we did before, in my school, I'll speak only for myself, we busied them. We kept them busy until the next thing we had to take them to. And then everybody had to do the same things. But what if you're not interested? Then if you're not interested, your behavior will shift. So we had to really look at what that. So if children have ideas, we have to first think about, what do they know? You can't teach anything out of context. Okay? You can't teach alphabet out of context of writing and communicating. The whole point of an alphabet is to write. But if you think on Monday I'm going to teach the letter A, and your name is Ben, who cares? But let me know if B shows up, because that's me.
Yeah, I know.
But A, if I want to write Dad a note, A is in there. You see, so writing is important. What we do is we teach writing for what? In isolation. It doesn't make sense, but I did it. You see in my video, you see all those alphabet up on the top with F for the letter, feathers on the letter F, and like Band-Aids on the letter B. Okay, let's talk about what that is. Pleasing parents. So they know we're teaching the alphabet. Because the truth is, a child is right here. They're just messing with the glue. They can't even see that whole letter. But we did it. So we started questioning that. Okay, no problem with glue. We glue all the time. But let's not put that as learning alphabet. Let's put that as just having fun with glue and feeling the feathers. So we're questioning now ourselves. And that's what this approach is. Don't ever do anything without meaning. Question what you're doing. Don't do anything without joy. Those are words that we hear. So then if that's the case, and we want to know what children know, then teachers have to be researchers. Not just teachers teaching top down. But now I want to know what is it that they know. So I need to now slow down, watch, take notes, take photos, because I want to know what I'm missing here, right? So if teachers are researchers, they do need the tools now for documentation to make learning visible. This is different than what we're used to. We're used to documentation as assessment. I'm going to prove that they know alphabet. I'm going to go down this assessment tool. When actually documentation in this approach is about making the learning visible. So not about the end product, because I want to know all the aha moments that happen with children. Mary, so on one second. Mary Hartsup from First Pres, she just died this week. We're saying our prayers, but she was a huge mentor to all of us. But she did a video, and you could probably pull up YouTube's on her anyway, but she did this, she did a video of watching for her students, and actually she watched a little boy cross a balance beam, right? The balance beam. He crossed the balance beam, and when he got to the end, everyone said, yay, right? And then they watched him. He never went back. Pretty much he was worried that if he didn't do it again, would he get this? And we do that all the time. Good job. But instead, what she's saying is change your eye to what's happening. Did you, and say, literally, did you notice? I did. That you put one foot in front of the other. And you started wiggling. And when you put your hands out, you balanced. I saw that. That's all children want. They want to be noticed. They don't necessarily want to be praised. But we've got to shift there. We have to encourage children, not praise children. Okay? That's a shift. Because we praise all the time. Good job. We have even those key words that we use, right?
So sorry to ask, but instead of praising them, what you should do is
Exactly what I said. See the action going on.
okay,
Did you notice? And it's like when you're filling up the bucket of water, the water table, and they're bringing the bucket over, and you're watching the water table, and the water's going into the bucket, but you didn't get to see all the beautiful balancing that went on to turn on the water and all. That's where you should be positioned. watching all that and encouraging them. And then when kids pull things away, you're there saying you want to turn with that. You want to keep having a dose. Yeah. Yes.
Because doesn't, for me, a pause means the end. It's not, it's over. I think what children observe, what they hear when they observe it, oh, it's done, so we have to clap at the end of the story. Oh my gosh, it's done. That was a good show. But this show is not over. So
Yeah. I think that what you're saying is true. It's not over. And the truth is, it's just beginning. And it begins with us. It begins with us observing children differently because the image of the child is strong. They're amazing. So if you make that visible through documentation, that's the shift. So if that's the case, then we also have to involve parents differently. So right away, it's not about parents signing up to help us, shop for us, and fundraise for us. They do, because that's what you do in schools. But now they study with us. Now we give them articles to read. Now we give them presentations that the teachers make and talk about the process. You know what we're doing now? Brand new this year. Scary. We now have a parent sign up to come to every single team meeting.
oh God.
That's scary. Because it means we have to be especially vulnerable again. Because for me, it was important. I watched it. I watched the teachers do amazing work. But I was in on it. I saw it. Parents only see what goes on the parent portal, which is the final presentation. And they see the blog. We put the blog up and we do all the journals. They don't see the whole process of how the teachers had to talk to each other about, when you did this, I'm questioning, could you have done it another way? Or a teacher comes back and says, I'm stuck. I'm in the block here. I can't figure out what they're doing here. The blocks are they just loving the blocks falling down? Or are they having trouble with balance? I need another viewpoint. So now, one parent signs up. They're there and they're a part of the learning. Because here's the part of the Reggio approach. That we are learners together. We're professionals in our early childhood years. That's our profession. But we have writers, we have doctors, we have printers, engineers, we have scientists, we have parents that are in all these fields. They have to bring their input into us so we can learn together. And that scientist was the one that said, they're learning about velocity. You know what we were talking about? Cause and effect. Because we're not scientists. We forgot all that terminology from school. And they taught us thrust and velocity and force and all these things. And it was amazing. So we were educated with our parents. So again, the next value is parents are partners. And it's very different than what it was before. Did we always love our parents? Absolutely. Did we do great parent-teacher comments? Yes. From 1987 all along, did parents feel welcome? Yes. Did we do that job? Yes. But we did it here. This is asking us to go deeper and to be vulnerable as learners together. When I first went to Italy, that was amazing to me. To be in the room less than an hour. My shoulders dropped. Everything was just, oh my gosh, you mean I don't have to know everything? Because as teachers, we're taught to know everything. As parents, we're taught to know everything. How can we possibly know everything? And so to be vulnerable and learn together is what this approach is all about. It's amazing. I mean, can you tell I'm passionate about it?
Yes.
But you've got the image of the child that's strong. Role of the teacher now. As a researcher, I'm going to slow down, observe a little bit. I need some tools to do that. So that's why I'm going to take some pictures and videotape. I'm going to write down quotes from children, bring it back to the teacher meeting, because every week we do sit together. And then I'm going to be able to work with, if I'm stuck, parents are our partners here. We can bring them in and be vulnerable. And then, because it takes time, we've opened up now our environment to be, and it's called, this value is environment as the third teacher. That means that the organization of the spaces are so organized and so defined that a child can go there 2 children, 3 children, 4 children, and know exactly what to do without a teacher. Because in the beginning, our curriculum is to teach them how to use materials, to look at spaces, to honor spaces, to be respectful of spaces. And so it's not like on Monday we paint, Tuesday we do clay, Wednesday which is what we used to do.
Yes.
Now, the next thing is the languages. It's the 100 languages of children. That's a value, which means that clay is a language, paint is a language, writing tools, a language, but building blocks, language. We never honored any spaces other than that art project. In fact, we pulled children out of the block area to get their farm done. We pulled children out of the house there, or we only went there when there was a fight or a problem. And then we had to leave our painting project, and then that fell apart because we had to go. But now the teachers can work with 1 or 2 children by themselves if they needed fine-tuning, something like, because children can be in a space by themselves. It's so defined. It's so clear. So that's the 100 languages of children are also materials. I'll give you a pretty good example of that one. We had a child who needed, in pre-K, you know what they need to know before they go to kindergarten. They got to recognize their letters, upper and lower case. They got patterns, shapes, color. They got to write their name. They got to draw a representation of a person. Okay? So we're watching this little guy, and we know that. So we've been doing it since the moment they walked in, of writing and doing all those things. Not teaching them, but bringing the materials to provide a space for that. We saw this little guy struggling. We knew he needed outside supports. We were giving him supports for his pincergraphs and all that stuff. But he couldn't draw. He couldn't draw a representation of a person. So we're getting frustrated. We're thinking, what have we done? This is a cruel trick. Something, we're feeling badly about ourselves. Until we realized, again, this approach is saying, first, we have to know what children know. We didn't even know if he knew what a person looked like. We're asking him to draw it, but we don't know if he knows. So until we had clay, where he made the most beautiful self-portrait you've ever seen in your life, we knew at least he knew. What we did is then took that language, brought it to the writing table, and he had a concept from which to start. Okay? That's the 100 languages of children. It's the same thing of a child in a block area was building, a castle or whatever, and things were knocking down, and he could draw it, but he couldn't build it. And so we were able to bring the materials to the building space for him. So again, it crosses over. It's not about just the writing table has to be here, the block table has to be here. It's just the materials from which to get this idea out. Does that make, that's very different. It used to be that we taught children to draw, right? Now we're understanding that it's more important to draw to learn what they're thinking. Amazing. Because you see those scribbles? You think it's nothing? There's a story there.
Yep.
There's a big story there. And people go and they throw those things away. But really what we're asking children, you can ask children 2 and 3 and 4, you can ask them, will you write that? I don't understand what you're saying. Will you draw that for me? And while they're doing this, they're talking. And so I got a better concept of that. I would love to take your question, but I have 5 more minutes. So can I hold on for a little bit, and maybe after class we can talk a little more? Thank you so much, because I want to go through this, because you're going to get this. So the environment as a third teacher, the 100 languages of children, because it all is about relationships and time. Do you see how we opened up that classroom? So kids can be at a block area or building space for an hour if they want to. Here's the beauty of this. How many of us need a little time to warm up? I got to line up on pencils for about 20 minutes before I can draw or write, because I'm thinking why would we not allow children that time? Instead, in fact, what we do is they stand there and watch, and we say, oh, go find something to do. I'm watching. I'm trying to figure out what's really happening here. What if I spill the paint? Am I going to be in trouble? I mean, some of it's that. Until they really learn the environment and feel safe, they can't learn. So they need time to watch. So the The 100 languages of children is important, and they're out all the time. Clay is out all the time. Blocks all the time. Paints all the time. Children know how to make their own colors, so they have ownership to it. Remember, it used to be that we did that. We put the primaries out, and we had a big fat brush. If you're the third person in, you're painting with brown. And people would say, aren't you slowing children down? Aren't you taking away their creativity by teaching them how to? No, I'm thinking we're giving them creativity because we're giving them the honoring paints. Because if you want a real small little eye for your fish, and you've only got a fat brush, so we give them beautiful brushes to be able to do this stuff. Because they know how to clean it and wash it and take care of it, because that's what we do. So then we've made documentation visible, and here's what we are forgetting, the importance of community. So here's what we've done in our culture. We build big walls. We keep kids behind, we protect them. And then we wonder why we have no power to fight for them in government. Because teachers are just busy. We're here. No one out there knows what children are doing. They only see behaviors they don't like, or they're, In Italy, children, they're looking at children as citizens now. In our culture, they're our future. No, you saw in the video, we say it. They're not our future. They are our future, but they're right here now. So what are we doing about giving them a sense of who they are in community now? So children have a right to have boundaries and rules. And I think this idea that children run amok in a Reggio program is so false, because what we're giving them is the ability to be a citizen in a caring community. So having time to problem solve with your friends, having time to say, I don't like that, and having the ability to say, well, tell me more about that. And being able to take care of each other and get perspective taking and learn how to focus and self-regulate and be a citizen in the world. They're not running amok. They can't, because they're citizens. If you look around, adults aren't doing that. So the role of the community is powerful. So now what we're doing is inviting our neighbors in. And we're going out to our neighbors. Now that could be scary to people because we're on Venice Boulevard. That could be scary. But instead of being scary, it's actually amazing, because now the neighbors know us. At a time when we're fearful, we become insular. When actually we need to open up and meet our neighbors. And so that's what so teachers are presenting their work. We're now a part of Mar Vista Art Walk, where we open our doors, where people come in and they can't even believe it's a preschool. There are people that don't even know we've been there 30 years. And because why would they? We never invited them in. So it's 2:30. I've never showed anything, but I talked a lot. Do you think you've got it?
Where is the location of the school?
Yeah, I'm gonna send you we're in Mar Vista.
Yeah, I live in Mar Vista. So.
Yeah, we're on
Awesome.
Venice, just 6 blocks west of St. Ellen.
Oh,
We're west of Venice.
I'm in Sentinel and Palm, so maybe
Yeah.
this way.
So I didn't have all that stuff. If people want to stay a little bit longer,
I
I
have
can
a
show
question,
you.
teacher. Are we able to visit the school and see, because I want to see it?
The only thing you can do to visit our school is that you have to sign up for an educator tour, and it costs.
Really?
And that's what's hard about that, is that we get visitors calls all the time. And so what we do is we have now a fund for our own education tour. So we are going to Italy, all of us, in May, and we're earning, we're doing fundraising and earning for that. We do study together. We can talk about what that
Even
looks like.
student or freshman.
Yeah, because I have
Possible.
students from UCLA, Santa Monica, West LA, everybody. So we have to be really careful, because it also is people coming in. So I can show this really fast, and if you need to leave, I get it. Why I think this is important is that some of the questions that people ask is that when children are in this environment, will they do well crossing over to a public school setting? Will they be able to cross over? And it gets back to that pre-operational versus operational, because come elementary school, children will have logical thinking. They'll be able to know different rules. They will also have the foundation from the early years to be able to critical think, to focus, to self-regulate. They have parental involvement. So did they succeed? Unbelievably. Because you'll see all the writing. But what we did for parents, again, because parents will always ask, will they be ready? Because it's a competitive world. So even if they believe what we're doing and they see what we're doing, they're still going to question it. So this is a PowerPoint that the teachers put together just recently for back to school night, which is for the youngers. So they just started in August. Already in September, we had parent-teacher conferences because we wanted it early enough to set goals together. But again, from February to August, we also made relationships with our parents. We knew who was coming in. We had evenings for them. We got together our family books. We did all kinds of things. So I don't know if you want to turn off lights or can you see it?
Yeah.
So why I'm going to show this, you'll see different spaces, but you'll see small group work. You'll see some of what we've been talking about in this PowerPoint, but this is specifically for parents. So the evening was set up that they actually would be involved in the activities themselves as the children are. So to place themselves in a situation of what does it feel like to do this. And to be out of your comfort zone. Because that's what we're asking children to do. Because if there's children who never go to the writing table, their first appointment might be the writing table. Because we're looking at the 5 domains of the self. The social, emotional, physical, which is fine motor and large motor, cognitive and creative. So when people are asking, are you an academic program or a developmental program? We used to say, oh, developmental, because children learn through play.
Yep.
But we couldn't speak about what are they learning. So then that's when they're pushed down to all that happening. So now we're looking at the development of the whole child, which cognitive is in there. So academia is in there. Why are we ignoring that? So we're speaking to it. So they opened up with a song. The teachers opened up with a song. Go ahead. And then we quoted for, the whole child. The whole child is based on the premise that physical, emotional health are fundamental to the well-being of children, that education must be developmentally appropriate if that well-being is to prosper, and that children need time to be children, time to be themselves, to do nothing, to stand and watch, to repeat again and what they did before. In short, they need to live in their childhood rather than through it. And I think so often we push them to teach them to go through. If we offer the young children we teach rich and appropriate learning opportunities, combined with enough time for them to enjoy the experience and experience those opportunities to the fullest, we will enhance childhood, not violate it. So did you see how that clay was that's out? And we start with the big clumps so they can climb on the big clumps and jump from it and poke it, and so they have elements of what clay is. And we don't just put clay in individual right away. We used to. We put a plot of clay here and a plot for you got one, you got one, you got one. Everyone was isolated in their work. Instead now, everything with this approach is about social constructivism. We talk about constructivism, where children construct their own knowledge. With this approach, it is about social constructing. So that's why small group and working together is vital in this work, because what you just did, never would have thought of that. And what that did is just build a little synapse there. Now I'm connecting here, that's different than Montessori. Montessori is very much one-on-one. And so this is, even though Maria Montessori was amazing, and she's our guru and our mentor of that, but it's pretty much.
I think this is where it's not accidental that particular region during World War II had a very active communist partisan movement fighting fascists, which is very relevant.
It is.
This week, I think.
It is.
And everything, but there was an ideology and a social vision that many of the parents and teachers, the families in that area started with.
Yeah.
There's a wonderful picture of, what's her name, the woman who was one of the founders.
Carlina Rinaldi.
I'm sure it was. She's there with her partisan unit and her guns.
Oh, yeah.
That's
the video. Yeah, that's a good one. Now, this is a little video that's, we can just pass through, I think, because we don't have a lot of time. But that was how children, those are parents. Well, actually, go back to that other one, the video. Can you play that? Because listen to this.
What do you need support with, Mehana? Oh, to get up on that part? Okay, here she comes, and I see Ozzy also coming over. That's great support. You're going slow at the pace that she's feeling comfortable with.
So just something simple like that in a play, looking differently at how children support each other. That could have been just a teacher doing that. So it is opening up to our community of caring together of how to support each other. And this is just a picture of, this is actually a parent, and over there is a parent. When I was saying that we're inviting parents in our team meetings now, that's, like I said, it's a big deal for us. But it's been amazing. The teachers have learned so much about themselves and actually been so validated because the parents just, they can't get enough. How do the teachers know what to say, what to do? It's amazing. So, now, we do meet, we're a year-round school. We're 7:30 to 5:30 year-round school. We have a full-day program, five full-day, 4 full-day, 3 full-day. We do have a morning program and an afternoon program, but we are year-round. So it's difficult to make time for us to, but we do meet in August. We close only 3 weeks. 2 of them are our summer camp. So we do meet for 1 week. It's hard, I know. And we plan, but we evaluate our year and plan ahead. So we do come up with an intention. And so we also study. When I was saying that we study together, we go to workshops. We went to Dan Siegel's talk at First Press. We read his book. We read Ellen Galinski's book, Mind in the Making. We read together. So again, this approach is very much about us taking us out of isolation and studying together. So this was, we decided we were really going to make this visible of how we can
Living
make.
the lie that the self is separate is a form of impaired integration. Because the reality is we are all, yes, differentiated as a me, but we're all linked as a we, only society and science don't tell us that. And so for me, what I tried to do in the Brainstorm book and what I try to do now in my talks is say, well, how do you honor the differences? You do have a personal history, and that's a me, but you also have an interconnectedness, that's a we. So it isn't getting rid of a me, it's combining the two into one. So you can use the term we, M-W-E. And we is what I think our identity should be. I'm a me and a we at the same time. And if we can get we into schools and into families and into literally the way you live, people realize that helping others is helping the self. Helping the planet is helping the self. The self is not in your body. The self is a distributed, interconnected system, and the body is just one node. And the amazing thing is, all the studies of longevity and happiness, you know, they show that when you live a life realizing you're interconnected, you're going to be happier and healthier. It's a win-win-win thing, and there's just a lie that's being perpetrated by society and science that I feel the mindfulness movement is building inner resilience and interconnectivity, and that's the empowerment that we need to promote.
And so this is just, that's an atelier, the different materials when we were talking about environments. It's meant for children to have different perspective taking and
Is that lace?
that's lace. Yeah, you can do all kinds of things. So again, that's what's next. And we do American Sign Language because we have a teacher who's really good at it, and let's face it, it comes from us too, and we're learning from her. The children pick it up just amazing, and they're speaking to each other very differently, and it's amazing. Yeah, this is amazing. We're talking a lot about emotions and feelings because we can address that, but if we don't really understand it and give children a way to express themselves, we're also shifting the context of I'm sad, I'm mad, rather than I'm feeling sad, I'm feeling mad. And that shift of language is very important because feelings don't identify us. We have if you just say I'm feeling sad, that's movement. Okay, you have a right to feel that. Also, it gives you the ability to say, what am I going to do about it? But if I'm sad, sometimes it feels like you're stuck. You see? And what happens is we say, you're sad. And then we're stuck. So what are you going to do about that? How can I support that? I'm here for you.
I feel sad, so to give you an idea, you can help me.
Well, I'm sitting with you on that feeling. I can relate to that feeling. I know what sad feels like. And so we have journals. that we have, the children made the little symbols and they drew on them and they named, so they can actually now go to their journals on their own. So again, when we're talking about spaces, we don't need a teacher necessarily to be there because all that's there, they know how to use it. And this is a little video. This is actually interesting to watch. This is just a little corner of the room with all the emotions.
You're feeling proud because Effie's playing with you?
Yeah.
And Effie, you were saying you feel
Sad because Daddy in the meeting.
because Daddy's at a meeting.
Can I have the glue, please? Hey, you put it upside down! No? Oh. But I cannot see the eyes. You need white eyes.
Then terminology. So when they, knock things down and you get discouraged and so there could be frustration there, we're shifting the language there. It's okay, we can repair it. So there's, again, this movement that I have some ownership to this space, that we can work together. And they say it. We can repair it. Don't worry about it. Before it used to be, they were mad at everybody who knocked something down. Or we used to actually put their kids' names on it. Say for Joey, or say for Mary. But what if you want to come in and be in the block area and all the blocks are saved for other people? So we used to think that was honoring individual work. But really what you're doing is shutting out, you're becoming exclusive. So what it is that you want to be able to say, tell them what's going on, you want to add to it. So now the signs are much more sophisticated. They talk the story. I'm building a bridge. Do you have ideas? So then the children are automatically being able to be drawn in, rather than us saying only 4 children in the block area. Instead now it could be 7 children if they work well.
More social skills, yeah.
Social. And then we never, because the open-ended, remember it's 9:20 to 11:30, right? They have time to problem solve instead of us fixing things all the time. So we never ask children to say you're sorry. Because again, developmentally, sorry, they've got it. It's that receptive language. They know it's there. So now, remember, they don't have reversibility and they're in it. So they may go sorry and run off because they're getting it, but they haven't quite got it. So what we're saying now, you can't teach empathy. You can only model empathy. And so look at his face. You came and took his toy. You didn't ask him. He's crying. He's upset. What can we do? So there's time to sit with it. And so before we used to say, okay, you play with it for 5 minutes and then you play with it for 5 minutes, because we used to try to teach sharing. You can't teach sharing. Because if you try to do that, watch the children. You just took it away. And then you say, oh, you only have 5 more minutes, hurry up.
Oh my God.
Yeah, we do it. We do it all the time. So this is, again, just shifting this. So, because when it says that children come in this world wanting relationships, it's real. You watch your babies and toddlers, they're handing you things all the time. They want relationships.
To build attachments and to build
And sometimes, but at 3 years old, somehow at school, we just now think self-esteem is their own individual work. We've cut it off. There was a beautiful video that, how far can I go? Look at me.
Oh my God, we have to go.
But I know you have to go. But let's just do this. So will you feel better? So again, it's their language. Keep going in. What's the plan? I'd like to. So that gets back to that expectations. So children can work on it together. Again, small group work. Appointments is to build those 5 domains. If a child is never going in the climbing structure, we want to, maybe their first appointment is going to be the climbing structure. Because maybe it's perception. Maybe there's a balance problem. Maybe there's a reason why. So they set up appointments with their teachers in the morning. Again, look how structured this is. But you don't believe it because it's really kind of so. And then it's specific because we're working on we. we're making connections all the time. So now when they're going to the other space, find a partner. And sometimes we find partners, so
Yeah.
because they'll always find the same partner, what if you're not ever chosen? So now we use partnerships together. And then reflection, it gets back to important because at 11:30 we meet with a smaller group or a bigger group to talk about the work that we've done. And it used to be that's when the teacher would read the thematic book, and it was always the teacher reading. Instead now it's the community talking together. Now it could be that the teacher has seen a child discover something or learn something new like the clay. Maybe they learned slip, and then they might say, I noticed that you learned how to make slip like a glue with the clay. Would you like to come back to the reflection meeting and let everyone know how that works? So reflection meeting can go in different ways. But it's never about a finished product. It's always about the challenge of the work. And this was just what we had the parents do, but we had them then break up into different groups and then talk about it. But what we've added with our parents is now after every meeting that we have, we bring them back and we get their reflections. And that's new, because it's like, I can be here today and I can tell you all these things, but I don't know what you got. It doesn't help me. And it doesn't help me when you say, good job. Well, what's good about it? What did you notice? And so the reflections are really important, to go back and reflect. That's metacognition. That's thinking about your thinking. And that's how we share information together. Because if you got something different than what I thought you got, that's important for me to know, to make connections. So thank you so much for letting me go way too long.
You inspired us.